We are currently seeing that Bitcoin is slowly starting to follow the M2 money supply, but Bitcoin is also rising significantly. We definitely need to talk about this because some are already wondering if the Bitcoin season might be slowly approaching, because we have seen increases of 30, 40, 50% in Bitcoin within a week. But before we get into that, folks, as always, leave a like and a comment just to show support, because I really enjoy making these videos for you, but I need your support. It's nice to see that we are now following the M2 money supply with Bitcoin. It was about time. I showed you weeks ago that this is possible. I showed you this M2 money supply here, shifted it by 7 weeks, and said that from then on it could start to get interesting. With Bitcoin we see, but it didn't take 7 weeks. It actually took 11 weeks here, but I also mentioned that this could very well be possible. When you overlay the M2 money supply, we can clearly see how strongly it correlates with Bitcoin. So the last few times we ran quite similarly, and that's just how it is. The thing is, the M2 money supply continues to go wild, which is very good for the crypto market. And that's why we also have to ask, can we possibly rise even higher here? Accordingly, we are slowly moving out of fear and are now in the neutral zone. And people are waiting to see what happens, but you can also see that some are slowly becoming bullish again. From a technical chart perspective, I've already told you over the past few days that we are still in a bullish upward trend, which we have never broken. And it was also a 30% correction, exactly what we've had several times in the past. However, I said it's important that we sustainably rise above $68,000 for Bitcoin. We have done that, and that is fundamentally positive, as it confirms this breakout once again. And in my opinion, it suggests that we can definitely enter this bullish momentum again. Here is now the next crucial zone, the zone up here at $96,000. We should also break through this sustainably and then find resistance here, which could indicate that we are targeting new all-time highs. And even if people now say, hey, that's way too bullish again, you have to imagine we have been correcting for a long time, but this sentiment can change very quickly. And it looks like the sentiment has now turned 180 degrees. Of course, all of this can change again in 2 to 3 weeks. And it could just be a bull trap here, but it doesn't actually look that bad at the moment. Also, in terms of liquidity, the market makers are naturally doing what they always do. It will be interesting again when we are here. As I said, these targeting $96,000. But if we then rise above it, take it as support, and rise again, as I said, then I even expect new all-time highs. And the situation can change here so quickly. In the last 2 days, we've seen the largest increase in Bitcoin ETFs. So institutional investors are directly back and buying in heavily here. Incredibly positive. That's exactly what we need. We need institutional capital. That pushes us incredibly high here. Also, this conflict with the USA and China, it looks like the USA is slowly but surely losing. Ultimately positive as well if they slowly come to an agreement. That's just a bit. The reason why we have slowly risen again here is because it has ultimately been realized, okay, the thing with the tariffs, it was all a bluff, and I mentioned that to you weeks ago in the videos. I said that it is impossible to maintain all these tariffs. It would completely isolate the USA from the entire world. They can't do that and they won't do that. And that's exactly how it was. I have really mentioned this several times in the past weeks. Check out the videos. I said it and it was clear to me that it was all just a bluff. And yes, ultimately, that's how it is now. Now, of course, the question arises, hey, is the Bitcoin season coming now? I mean, Bitcoin has already risen significantly, really nicely on the weekly view and also on the monthly view. Not all of them, of course. But slowly, a significant amount of capital is also flowing into Bitcoin. And at this point, I can only recommend to you, join our VIP trading group. Up here, I'll show you the 6th April. I showed you spot positions where we can enter with SUI, Bitcoin, Solana, ENA. Not all positions were picked up, but for example, SUI. Here we hit our zones and are now 80% up from our entry point. Just imagine that. That's why you should definitely check out the VIP trading group. There, you not only get daily trades, but also spot signals more often. When and how you can increase spot positions here. And as I said, I also opened spot positions here 20 days ago. And yes, I'm already over 80% in profit here, just with a project like Sui. Don't miss out on this, definitely check out the VIP trading group. Everything about it is in the description and it's 100% free. Of course, it's nice and good that the altcoins are all rising again. That's also what we've been waiting for a long time. And yes, I think everyone likes that at the moment. Now, of course, the question is this perhaps already slowly the starting signal for the altcoin season? No, folks. Let's stay grounded and not exaggerate the current situation. It's nice that the altcoins have risen, but this is not yet an altcoin season. This is not even the starting signal for an altcoin season, and one should not exaggerate here. Although we are in the risk-on region with the US dollar, meaning people are more risk tolerant, nevertheless, we are simply not yet in the area where a tremendous amount of capital is flowing into the altcoins. The altcoins are still considered a risk asset, and that will remain the case until we see a monetary expansion here. Monetary expansion is the most important thing. For the altcoins, as we see an increase in global liquidity extremely well. That's why the altcoins are also performing. But what is also among the most important things is simply really we need a loose monetary policy in the USA, and that's what we need. We don't have it yet, but if that comes into play, then we have both things we need for the altcoins. And then we could assume that we are now seeing an altcoin season, because the Fed is currently still making money tighter and is still pulling more capital out of the markets. And that's not good, but we also know by now that this will change in the coming months. The foundation for an altcoin season has never been as strong as it is now in recent years. The foundation is laid. Now it really depends on the next few months when and how we see a monetary expansion here and whether we narrowly avoid a recession. If that were to happen, it would be mega good. Also, another indicator that I can show you. For the altcoin season, it's the P-cycle top indicator. If we really assume an altcoin season, then we first need to enter the overheated zone with Bitcoin. Every time we have entered the overheated zone, the altcoin season followed. That means first Bitcoin made a huge leap. Bitcoin was in the news and so on, which caused a lot of attention. And only then was the money reallocated. So first, Bitcoin needs to rise sharply, but briefly, into the overheated zone. And then the altcoin season can come. In the past, it was only after we discussed the purple line here that the altcoin season arrived. But Bitcoin has also risen sharply again, as it did in the past. Currently, we would need Bitcoin price targets of over $150,000 to even be in the overheated zone. And from there, Bitcoin would need to rise even further, so one must simply be honest. It has been good that everything stretched a bit at the beginning of the year, because the more extreme the reallocation, the more extreme this cycle will be. I am very optimistic for the coming months. The peace cycle top indicator has never been wrong, and I hope it won't be wrong this time either if it unfolds as expected. If it turns out as we have imagined, then it will become really interesting. I promise you that. But these are things one could look at if one assumes an altcoin season here. Because currently the foundation is being set, but we are not even at the start of the altcoin season yet. What we have seen so far was nothing at all. Believe me, once the reallocation takes place here, it will become really interesting. But for that, we would first need an overheated Bitcoin. Everything in due time. I remain optimistic, just as I showed you a few weeks ago, that we will follow the global liquidity in Bitcoin. Has it happened now? Yes, and sometimes you just have to rely on the past more often. Why not? Of course, this doesn't mean that we'll see the big alcohol easing tomorrow. But, as I said, the foundation is laid. There are simply many positive things that are slowly accumulating. And I still expect an escalation towards the middle or end of the year. The summer months are generally a bit quieter. But even here, a little something can change, of course. We all thought the first quarter would be really good in the crypto market. But it turned out to be the worst quarter ever, so it might be that the second or third quarter will somehow be significantly better, even if we might not expect it. Anything is possible, as I said, but macroeconomically, things are slowly getting better step by step. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked the video, you know what to do. And then, until next time, friends,